Saddest thing that I see that new fathers do is thinking that masculinity, that old school masculinity of being a good provider financially is enough to make up for being an absentee dad emotionally for your kids. And I have a family member that is going through it with his wife because he is a great provider. But man, he is just a very aloof person, always has been. And he's doing a very awful job when it comes to fatherhood. Now, the thing is, you have guys that will say, well, he's a provider, so that should cover a lot. That's not it. That doesn't cover as much. And this is the point of this video. A lot of men think that, okay, well, this covers enough. It doesn't. Especially when your wife works too. If she's doing 50-50 or 60-40, you really should step it up then, Dad. If she's a stay-at-home housewife, he is the provider, the sole provider, a lot of pressure. And I'm going through that as well as being the main breadwinner. With my son, I know it's not enough because he's not going to care about the overtime I'm doing and how hard I work for him when it comes to making sure that he's taken care of. He doesn't care about that stuff. He cares about his dad around. And when he's around, what does he do with me? He's on the laptop. He's doing this, that. Well, damn, where's my dad? That's what all kids care about, is being there for them. And I know it's tough. And it's like, well, you're talking a lot, but do you actually do it? Do you walk the walk? I try, and I'm not perfect, but I try as hard as I can to spend as much time with my son because I understand that that's the priority. I understand that life and adulting gets in the way. And even when you don't have kids, it's hard as hell to survive. And it's on purpose. They don't want us to have anything. They, rich people that own everything and keep taking things away from us. I understand how hard it is to work, how hard it is just to survive. And you want to spend time with your kid, but I'm telling you right now that there is always a way to make things work out, especially with dividing your time to your kid if you just make them more of a priority. For a lot of men, I'm talking about the men that can make it a priority and do not. And that's the saddest thing because as an older gentleman with all this gray hair, one of the first lessons you learn when you hit middle age is how quickly time flies. The older you get and how time is the most valuable resource in the world because there's no refunds for it. You can get money back, you can't get time back, right? And I know some of you is, well, I understand that and I'm really young. Okay, but then we don't live that way. That's what I'm getting at. There's a lot of things that we understand when you sit down to take the time to breathe and you start to understand, for example, that we don't live forever, but damn, a lot of us, and I'm guilty of this, we get lost in our responsibilities and we forget that we're all going to die one day. And we tend to play this game as if tomorrow I'm going to do this or tomorrow I'm going to do that. And I'm going to put things like my dreams off to the side, like tomorrow is guaranteed. That's my point. You sit down, you breathe, you understand, okay, yeah, I know that life is short, but we don't practice that belief. We don't live that way. We forget these things. And just like time, we just tend to live as if it is everlasting and you can get just like your money back and get your time back, right? Because we live life by wasting a lot of time on things that don't really matter. And I know it's tough talk because like being homeless, how about that? But when you start to look at what is the best thing you can do with your time, and you start to understand what makes the most impact, it's going to be more about how you raise your kids and if you are actually raising your kids and making them a priority. That's the most important thing. And, I know a lot of different men that are trying their best to raise their kid, or in some cases kids, and they're doing a miserable job because they don't understand that being a provider financially is not enough. I know one of my friends that he is a very aloof guy and I love him dearly, but you will ask him to make you a pot of coffee and he's like, okay, I'm on it. And then he's on his phone and he forgets. And you think he's doing things like that on purpose. He's a very aloof type of guy. And of course, his wife will ask him to do something like, can you bathe the kids? Can you run to the store to pick up milk? And he just, it's almost like he does it on purpose, but he's just a very aloof type of dude. And that type of aloofness where you're physically there, but you're not there all the time, it's exhausting. And I can only imagine being his partner and having to deal with kids with him. But again, it is about him understanding what takes priority. Yes, he works hard to provide, but that's not enough. Another friend that is in the same boat where he just does a lot for his family financially, but when it comes to the things that really make an impact, like spending time with your kids, he doesn't understand that you have to do that. Because as soon as you blink, your kids are going to be off with their own friends, their own life, and they're going to cut you out, especially in his case, when you've cut them out. And the hardest thing is, well, damn, he's doing it for the family. Ain't that a bitch? Yeah, but then you are working so hard for the family, but what reward is your kid getting besides the things that they're not going to understand yet? And may never care when they're older. Well, I was working that hard to make sure you have the roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on the table. Yes, that's funny, is it? Because if you don't have those things, the state takes your kids away from you. So what the hell? But it's still not enough. And it's sad to see that you have these men that just don't prioritize as much as they need to. And then when their kids grow up, and it's like, well, you cut me out of my life, and okay, so check this out, right? Hold my beer. And maybe they'll be drinking before they're well into their adult age because of the fact that, well, I don't have anybody really, dad's not really paying attention anyway. So what the hell? Maybe this is a way to get him to pay attention. Because that's my other concerns. You have kids that act out because they're ignored, and they act out to get attention. And both of my friends that are having issues with fatherhood have very small kids. They're not acting out yet. They're too small, but I think that'll come soon enough because they're going to act out to get attention. And that'll be a shame. But I'm rooting for my friends because I'm very involved in their lives and I'm trying to help them out by having some deep talks with them. And I think it's important, for example, if you notice your friends or family, they need a helping hand, to be there for them. That's what I try to do. But also try to have conversations and see how things are going because they can be very stressed or depressed. They can have a lot going on where it's taking a toll on their mental health. And that's why they are not prioritizing their family because they feel so underwater that they feel that, well, I just have to work a lot. My kids just, I'm doing it for them. But when I check in on them, it's not that they feel depressed or there's just too much going on. It's more about they think they're just doing enough. A lot of men, even myself, we've been taught. And it's a societal lesson where we're taught to think that men go out there, work hard, provide for your family, and that's how it's always been. That should be enough. And it never was enough. A good analogy is you see these rich kids that seem to have everything financially, and they still act out and have issues. And you have to think, why? Maybe they are yearning their father's love when it does damage to their psyche. So for me, I want to be there for my son. I want to make sure that my friends are there for their sons and daughters. So for me, I try to practice what I preach. And I'll talk to my friends. It's always like, what did you do? How's it going? What did you do this weekend? And I'll tell them me hanging out with my kids, me doing this with my kids, that with my kids. Because it's not about bringing somebody into a conversation to make them feel bad about what they're doing as a father or trying to tell them where I think they're messing up as a father. That's not how you get through to people. It's more about, in this case, when people, and we're talking about friends and family, they're asking you how your day was or how your weekend, how's life, and you just talk about what you do with your kids. And my friends get it. And they start to say, hey, it would be cool if, can we come along? Or, yeah, that sounds a good idea. What's the name of that campground? I got to take the kids there too, because that's local. That's not far from me either. That's why I said it. It's something that I try to do when I'm talking to friends and family, because when you start to open up to people about how you're solving things, how you're living life and trying to live life the right way by your family, if they're truly friends and family that are there and supportive, they're going to feel that, see that, and they're going to try to do it for their family. So if you like this, let me know. So that's all I have to say about that. The saddest thing is you see people out there that don't prioritize. I know there's all types of excuses, but the important thing is to just try. We are not perfect. I'm nowhere near perfect. I mess up all the time. One day my son will tell me in therapy how I messed him up. But the point is, we're not perfect. But the best thing we can do is try. And for a lot of us as men, we don't even do that. We have to start to do is to try to do the best, not just for ourselves, but when you have family, your immediate family, which you built, try to do the best for your children and to understand men is not enough to be a financial provider. And I know the world just seems that that's just all it is to be a man, that you still need to be a provider first and foremost to be a real man. People always want to ask me, what do I do? And you're right, because they're trying to figure out, yeah, how much money you make. Where are you at in the social economic totem pole? That's bullshit, and I agree. Because they are judging us as men and women ask this, what do you do? You're right. There's too much emphasis on what do we do as if that's who I am. It is bullshit. Don't let that bullshit get in the way of your thinking of, okay, I am big man on campus. People ask me what I do. Guess what? I'm a VP of this, that, and the third. I'm out here making ends meet in a big way for my family. Okay, but that's still not going to be as big as an impact. It's good, but it's not as big as an impact as being there emotionally for your children, being a trusted parent, and to be able to build that trust through being there. You can't always be there. I'm not saying that. But even your small children can understand when you're at least trying. And I think that's what destroys a lot of relationships with parents and children is when the children see that when the parents don't give a damn and they don't try. I've seen that, and maybe that can be where you are at with your parents, where you have parents that didn't even really try when it comes to parenthood. And you see how that has gone with your relationship with your parents, or maybe you have family or friends, or you see that with their parents. So what I'm saying is to try, because your kids will notice when you don't.